Hi there, welcome to the Healthy Teaching Kitchen. I'm Emily Richters, a registered dietitian here at the Wilkes-Barre VA Medical Center. Today I'm going to talk to you about meal planning and preparation. That tends to be one of the areas that might catch everyone up a little bit when they're trying to eat a nutritious lifestyle. So the first thing when you are trying to plan out your meals is to actually sit down and plan each individual meal out. That's going to be the biggest step in creating your grocery list and making sure you're preparing everything correctly and getting those meals ready to go for the week. So the first thing to do, again, planning your meals, get anyone in your household together. Have them sit down. It might take about 20 to 30 minutes to do this, but this way, if you have everyone involved in your household, you'll know what's going on throughout the week, and that way you'll be prepared if there's extracurricular activities, late meetings, and so forth. So when you're planning your meals, you want to break them down into breakfasts, lunches, and dinners. You also want to make sure you include your snacks along with any beverages that you want to have. So when you're planning those meals, think about each food group. So as you see up here, we have different food groups that I'm going to discuss. So you want to break each of those meals down into each food group as best as you can to make sure you're hitting all those different food groups. So first off, you want to think about, let's talk about breakfast. We'll talk and figure out what food groups you want to include in breakfast. So say, for example, you always have fruit. Make sure you include a couple different fruits. So for example, we have bananas and nectarines here. Maybe even grapes are going to be included somewhere in your meal planning as well. So include those. Maybe you want to have oatmeal, or that's your usual, and you also want to do cereal for breakfast. So those are going to be things that you want to include when you're meal planning. If we're talking about proteins and whole grains and starches, make sure you get those written down for maybe more of your lunch meals and your dinner meals. But we also want to include protein at breakfast, so try and figure out a way to get some of those foods in at breakfast as well. Milk is a great protein source. So for example, up here I have some lunch kits that you can use, very easy as far as protein goes. All you have to do is open up the package and add them to maybe a salad, maybe it's some whole grain rice or pasta, and that way you're getting a really balanced meal with different food groups. Maybe you got to add some vegetables into there as well. So for example, I have some cucumbers over here, and as we get further over onto our other side of the table, maybe it's some broccoli, some mushrooms, the list can go on and on. So plan out each individual meal first, and then you're going to decide on what exact items you need to purchase at the grocery store. So that's the next thing, would be your grocery list. And so you always want to grab a pad of paper and a pen and try and create your list in order of what the grocery store looks like, or how you go through the grocery store. This way, when you're going through that list, maybe you're in a rush to do the grocery store, you don't miss anything. So maybe you're crossing out items as you go, and this way if you keep them in line with how you go through the grocery store, you're not going to miss any of those items. So do your grocery list, make sure you hit each item, so again, each food group. You also want to make sure you check to see what you already have in your cupboards or in your pantry. So make sure that you're not buying things you already have. Another tip here is if you find something in your cupboards, in your refrigerator or in your freezer that you already have that could substitute something else that you were planning on purchasing, then do that, because maybe you're stuck on your budget this week, or maybe you just want to use up what's in your freezer. So go ahead and substitute something similar in your food group for that. And that's again why checking in your pantry is very good, so we utilize foods and we don't waste them. The next item on your list then, after creating that grocery list, is then going to the store and buying your items. So as you're going through the grocery store, you might determine that you put, for example, nectarines on your list, but berries are in season. So that might be something that as you're at the grocery store, you tell yourself, you know what, I'm gonna buy the berries this time instead of the nectarines because they're in season and they're on sale. Sales are always a great thing to look for. So those might be substitutions where you're actually at the grocery store and you make that choice to change your decision. But you're substituting in the same food group. So that should not be a problem. It might take some practice at doing and learning your budget, but that's always an option that you can do. There might also be items that you forgot to put on your list, such as milk eggs, and some condiments. So again, when you're sitting down making your list, think about some things that you might need to repurchase. If it's different condiments, oils, vinegars, those things should still go on your list so that you might not be more impulsive to buy things that you don't need. And you also can remember checking in your cupboards and pantries and refrigerators, making sure that you have enough, or if you need more, that they go on your list. The next stop in doing your grocery shopping is coming back from grocery shopping. The main thing here is to make sure you go to the grocery store and come back home, especially for cold items and freezer items. You want to make sure you get those right into your freezer and refrigerator when you get home. There's a time temperature lag, and we don't want foods to go bad. So make sure you go right home from the grocery store. Right after you get home from the grocery store too, that might be something you think about when you're kind of thinking about planning your meals, is that you're going to go to the grocery store and then you're going to come home and do some of the meal preparation. This tends to be also one of the biggest kind of limiters when we're trying to eat healthy, is you buy all this healthy food and then it just sits there. So take that time to think about when you're going to prepare things, and it might be right after you come home from the grocery store. You might not even want to put some of the items into your refrigerator, your cupboards, your freezer, because you want to prepare those items right away. And that's a really good practice, or setting another time to do it. So maybe it's not right after you come home from the grocery store, maybe it's a couple hours later, or maybe it's the next day. So that way you have a little lag in meal preparation, and because it might feel like it's taking too much out of your day. One of the best ideas is to, when you are preparing your items for the week, is to try and prepare them more in bulk. If you know you're going to be eating leftovers, if you're okay with doing that, or if you know every day, for example, for lunch or snacks, you are going to have the same thing. So one of the best ideas is to get some plastic bags. You can get reusable ones as well if you want to be more eco-friendly, and bag up items individually, so that way all you have to do is grab and go. So for example, I have our celery over here already chopped up, and then all you're going to do is grab a baggie out of the refrigerator and put it in a lunchbox and take it to go. So that way you don't have to take all that time to prepare those items and kind of think about that every single day. It's already done for you, grab and go. It's also really helpful if you have kids. They can just grab and go as well. So having snack items in the refrigerator or meal items that they know that they can just take and grab. Another item I have up here that's already prepared would be something like hard-boiled eggs. So maybe the day you go grocery shopping, or whatever day it turns out to be that you do meal planning, would be to prepare some hard-boiled eggs for snacks or for a part of a meal, because hard-boiled eggs would be a good option to prepare for up to 3 days, usually is what you can keep them for. So if you boil, say you have 2 kids and they're each going to take 1 egg for a snack, if you hard boil 6 eggs, then you have their eggs for each snack each day for 3 days. So that way that's all done. All they have to do is grab and go with their hard-boiled eggs. For example, for your vegetables for your meals, what you can do is already prepare those as well. So I have some thawed fresh broccoli. So I purchased fresh broccoli, I didn't end up using it, so I ended up freezing it. And that way, all I have to do is take it out of the freezer now, and I can prepare that for another meal, for example, this week. So that way it's all ready to go, it's chopped up, all I have to do is maybe put some seasonings on it, and it's ready to go with my protein. And as that comes to the conclusion of most of your items that you'll want to think about with meal planning, meal preparation, another big tip is food safety. So I mentioned before, you want to go from the grocery store right home, but also when you're preparing items, make sure you're keeping the cold foods cold, you're doing those first, getting them back into the refrigerator in a good amount of time. And also when you're preparing foods, for example, your proteins. If you're preparing chicken or turkey or some other protein, make sure you're cooking them to the proper temperature. So we want to get them up to about 165 degrees temperature, and then we want to cool them properly. So we don't want to put them right from the oven right into the refrigerator. So as for meal planning and preparation, that is all I have for you today. I hope you enjoy it, and look ahead for any more tips and tricks from our Healthy Teaching Kitchen.
Whether it's tumultuous thunderstorms or whipping winds, or mountains of snow. The force of Mother Nature can be tremendous, not to mention crippling to our power sources.
We take our lights for granted, but when the power goes off and the lights go out, knowing what to do with the food in your refrigerator and freezer can help keep you safe. The last thing you need after a weather emergency is a case of food poisoning.
First, make sure you have appliance thermometers in both your refrigerator and freezer. You can buy appliance thermometers in many grocery and hardware stores. The temperature in your refrigerator should be 40 degrees Fahrenheit or below, and the temperature in your freezer should be 0 degrees Fahrenheit or lower.
Also, keep on hand at least a 3-day supply of non-perishable food items that don't require refrigeration or cooking. Things like canned goods and boxed milk.
When severe weather is forecast, freeze ice and gel packs or containers of water ahead of time to help keep your food cold in the refrigerator, freezer, or coolers in case you lose power. You can also freeze refrigerated items such as leftovers, milk, and fresh meat and poultry that you may not need immediately. This helps keep them at a safe temperature longer if you lose power. If the power goes out, keep your refrigerator and freezer doors closed as much as possible to maintain the cold temperature. Your refrigerator should keep food cold for about 4 hours if it's not opened. A fully stocked freezer should remain cold for about 48 hours. If the freezer's not full, about 24 hours. When the power returns, check the freezer thermometer. If it's 40 degrees Fahrenheit or below, or if frozen foods still have ice crystals, you can safely refreeze or cook the food.
If the power was off for more than 4 hours, throw out all perishable food in your refrigerator, such as meat, poultry, fish, eggs, milk, and leftovers. Never taste food to determine if it's safe, and don't depend on how the food looks or smells either. Unsafe food can look and smell normal and can make you sick even if you cook it thoroughly. When in doubt, throw it out. Keeping these simple tips in mind will help keep your food safe if you lose power.
For more information on food safety, visit fda.gov or foodsafety.gov.
The job of a hurricane hunter is not for the faint at heart. These brave men and women must fly straight into one of the most destructive forces in nature. Hurricanes are born over the open ocean, and while satellites can track their movement, meteorologists and researchers need to sample the storms directly to get the most accurate information about them. NOAA's Hurricane Hunter fleet includes 2 P-3 turboprop aircraft, as well as a Gulfstream 4 jet. The P-3s fly through the storm, encountering devastating winds that can be over 150 miles per hour. The jet can fly higher than the turboprops, gathering data from the upper atmosphere. Both planes have high-tech equipment on board to get the job done, like radar and fixed probes that measure particles in the air. Scientists also deploy drop wind sondes, which parachute down through the hurricane to the ocean surface, sending back data on pressure, temperature, humidity, and wind. These measurements can help us understand the structure of a storm and the winds that are steering it. The data is used in computer models that help forecasters predict how intense the hurricane will be and where and when it will strike land. Hurricane hunters take a literal look into the eye of a monster formed by nature. Their courage helps further science, which saves lives.